Well, since I've been doing these vlogs for a while now, I'm getting slightly better at this. I decided to make one about modern video games, big teams, and production costs. So, it is kind of norm right now to have graphics that are impressive in video games, which means every game has to look super detailed and occasionally super realistic, or else it sucks. So basically, it forces companies to make games very detailed and realistic. But therein lies a problem. A problem no one thinks about. Um, Games are not just magically puffed into existence, they have to be made by people. And of course, the more detailed the animation and the textures and the polygon count and whatever, the more people you need to do it. I'm saying more people because you can have a very polished, detailed, realistic game made by a small team, but it will take them twice the time. Because the polygons don't make themselves. The animations don't do themselves. Of course, modern technology can automate for some things, like you take a hand from this position and this position and have the engine automatically move it or something like that. But aside from that, most animations, most models are still done by hand, which means someone had to do it. And you need more time, or you need more people. And as we all know, games usually do not take longer to make now. Usually they don't. It's still the same 1 or 2 years for the first game and like a year for a sequel. Things haven't changed. They have not. So what I'm getting to here is if you need more details, more animations, more graphics, you need to put more people into it. You need to have bigger teams. And that means you need to pay them more money, because people need to get paid. People don't work for free, and they never should. So bigger games, more impressive games, even if they're 5 hours long, if they look very impressive, if the animation is very, very, very detailed, that means these games were done with bigger teams. And bigger teams mean bigger budget. And that is pretty much one half of the reason video games budgets started to rise. It's not because, oh, that's progress, that's just how it is. No. No. It's not just how it is. If you want more detail, more animations, more realism, you need a bigger team. Bigger team needs to be paid, so it needs to be paid more. And if you impose standards on the video game industry that every single game needs to be realistic and detailed, basically needs to look like, let's say, Uncharted 4, or I don't know, Order 1886, or whatever that name is, you end up with video game budgets being very high by default. And what that means is games take more to make. It costs more, they cost more to make. And if the investors want to invest all that money into a game, they wanted to make back their money. So it needs to appeal to more people, it needs to sell more, which is why you have less variety and more safe bets with the same walking simulators, corridor shooters, duck and cover, shooting mechanics, same game basically. Maybe, I don't know, GTA clones, sandbox, open world. Same games, same games, same games. And the reason for the same games is because they cost so much to produce. Companies need to make their money back. They tell the developers, okay, scale down your ideas, make the game like everything else. And a solution to this problem is very simple. Just stop this whole realistic detailed games thing. Just allow the developers to decide if they want the game to be detailed or less detailed, realistic or less realistic. If you have, let's say, Metal Gear Solid 2, it is now mentioned by Digital Foundry, and apparently no one noticed it before, but the character models in Metal Gear Solid 2 are actually very simple. The number of polygons in the characters you play as and NPCs, the characters you see in cutscenes, is quite low, and the soldiers you fight are even lower. So you end up getting a game with very few polygons that still looks good because it doesn't try to go for realism. It kind of emulates realism just a little bit, but it doesn't go full realism. And let's say if you take a model that is like a model from MGS2, put modern hair on it, so it flails when you move and air, water, whatever. You still have a game with polygon count per character being 10 times, 100 times lower than a standard modern AAA game, and you will end up needing less people to make that game, and you will need to pay less money for it. And since the game is cheaper, you can take more risks and have it be whatever. Sell it to less people, make it less successful. But who cares if the game is less successful? If it took, I don't know, $2 million to make, and it makes back $4 million, it's successful. So yeah, what I'm saying is the standards of graphics and animations in games needs to go down. Because that way you can have more games being made more cheaply, games would cost less, and you will have more variety in games. You could still have detailed games if you want, but it should not be the standard, because super high standard on realism and detail in games kills diversity. And you might say, well, that's technological progress. That's progress, and progress is good. Well, progress kills diversity. That's just a fact.